my main takeaway is that it's pretty easy to impress me. It's definitely not terrible. It's definitely not bad. It's definitely amazing, but it's not. My first initial reaction was, okay, we're done. The world is over. Like, all jobs are gone. But after using it a little bit, it's not. It definitely doesn't replace a human in much at all. It's not. It's certainly not smarter than you or me watching this here. I don't care how dumb you are. It's about. It's just. It doesn't have any real intelligence. It's not making any real decisions. It's just spitting out what it knows how to spit out. But it knows how to spit out some pretty complicated stuff. So let's get to it. First, I want to compare it, and I already have, to Google Translate, and it's pretty good for translating. It does a pretty good job for summarizing text. It does an okay job for telling stories. It does a pretty good job for code recognition. It does, and for code generation, I mean, it does an okay job. So what I did was we started with I asked it to tell a story. I also did a pre-translate just to see how it worked before, but I asked it to tell a story, and here it gives basically what I asked. A story about a court case where a judge speaks Spanish and the lawyers speak Cantonese, told by a translator. Kind of what I really wanted it to do was give a speech, because I've seen it give dialogue. I wanted it to give dialogue of someone who spoke Spanish, someone who spoke Cantonese, translated to English. I thought it would, my prompt isn't good, so this is a prompt issue. I didn't tell it. I'm sure I could fix up the prompt, and we'll do that later, but just to see how the translation goes. So I went from English to Japanese to Hindi to Russian to Arabic to Landa, which is like some other language somewhere in the southeast, somewhere near India. It was the 10th most popular language I saw, and it happened to have it. Then to Chinese, then to ancient Roman, because I'm an idiot, and then I said Latin later just to make sure that they were the same. Then I translated it to Korean, because I figured I'd heard somewhere that Korean was like the most modern language, and then I figured maybe it would have some trouble going from Latin to Korean, then to Greek, then to Portuguese, then to Thai, then to Dutch, then back to English. And when I ran the diff, you can see that the first story is actually the new one, and the story 2 is the original. And they ended up being pretty similar. Each of these are the differences. So the new one, it comes out the story of a trial where the judge speaks Spanish and the lawyers speak Cantonese, told by a translator. Then it changes trial to court case. I think down here, it ends up saying that the luck was that when originally it was fortunately. Here, there's kind of a big change in the sentence structure. It takes out the while. It replaced argued with claimed. It changed, it was the property of his client instead of belonged to his client. And then the sentence structure kind of changes here. So it's a little bit different, but not that different. It's not we'll try Google Translate here in a second, and I can almost guarantee that the difference is going to be much more noticeable. Although I haven't run a test like this in a long time, so I'm sure Google Translate has improved. So we'll find out. Just a quick aside, as what I was saying before, in terms of how useful ChatGPT is, we already have a tool like Google Translate, and we'll test it to see if it's good, but It's going to give you
裁判
pronunciation.
官がスペイン語を話し、弁護士が広東語を話す、通訳による裁判の話。スペインの小さな村で法廷に持ち込まれた事件がありました。裁判官は
That was, okay, so that's English to Japanese. And then we'll just go here and I'll go through all these other languages and we'll see how it does. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't have lambda in on Google Translate. Maybe. Ah, that's really unfortunate. Okay. And GPT-3, if it will not tell you anything about the knowledge that it has. It doesn't know, like if you ask it, tell me the languages, and I have asked it that. If you ask it, you know, what languages do you know? It doesn't know. You can't ask it, here's just a quick example. I asked it, what authors are you familiar with? It's going to tell me it doesn't know. I say name 250 authors. It doesn't know. I say name an author. It doesn't know. But then I say who wrote the Constitution. It knows who wrote the Constitution. Who wrote the most books in 2001? It doesn't know. But I say what languages can you translate? It doesn't know. But I ask it, how do you say hungry and how do you say I am hungry in Spanish? It knows. How do you say I am hungry in German? It knows. How do you say I am hungry in Chinese? It knows. Like it doesn't have any, it has no knowledge of anything. It just spits out based on the prompt. It doesn't know anything. It's just, when you really, it just does what it does. It's nothing, you know, it can't add knowledge to itself. I wanted to know how many 1,000 tokens cost on openAI because they've got this like secret, you can't buy tokens on here. You know, you have to contact the sales team. You have to contact the sales team or something, and it's not. They don't have a clear-cut price on how much things are. So I ask it, how much are tokens? It doesn't know. It doesn't know. It not only does it not know, it tells me that it's not able to provide me information. I ask it how large of a model it is. It doesn't want to tell me. It tells me it can't provide information. What information are you not allowed to provide me with? It doesn't. It actually does tell me. As a large language model trained by OpenAI, my primary purpose is to assist users in generating human-like text based on the input that I receive. I'm not able to provide users with factual information about real-world topics or current events, as my knowledge is based on the text that I have been trained on, which is a fixed cutoff date. Additionally, I do not have the ability to browse the internet or access information about specific individuals, organizations, or events. I am also not able to provide users with personal information or advice, as I am a machine learning model and do not have personal experiences or knowledge. And based on my rudimentary knowledge of machine learning, the ability to look things up and to kind of have an if-else, you know, kind of do things, is kind of beyond the scope of a neural network, of a learning model. It's not. It literally has been given a bunch of inputs that have been mapped to a set of outputs, and it then takes your input and maps it to an output that's similar to the previous input and output mappings that it's seen in the past. It's not, if you were to, you couldn't even add those kinds of features to this and have it be just a pure machine learning model. It'd be something else. It'd have to become like an application. That's not what this is. It's literally just a mapping of inputs to outputs. That's all it can do for you. So we don't have lambda. So I'm going to just skip that and give it the benefit of the doubt, so that if this ends up being worse, even more power to the translating power of ChatGPT. And I also want to say that I'm a little bit curious, because it does have the ability to remember chats and outputs that it's done in the past. So my theory as to why this is so good is if the translation is hard, like maybe Latin to Korean, I think it will just try and see if it's translated. Maybe it'll even translate from Latin to English, and then English to another language that's more similar to Korean than English, or it'll go back and say, okay, you've already translated this into Japanese, and this is completely awful, but I'm going to assume that Japanese is more similar to Korean than English is to Korean, and that's probably not true at all. But let's just say that is true. It's going to go back and try and find an easier translation, and then come forward and give you that, not necessarily doing a direct translation like Google Translate might be doing. That's what I'm thinking as to how this is so good, because it is pretty damn good. All right, let's skip to Chinese and let's see how this does. All right. Okay, so it came out. Now we got it. This is much more different. This is much more different. It goes, instead of a story about a court case where the judge speaks Spanish and the lawyer speaks Cantonese told by a translator, it says this story was translated by a Spanish-speaking judge and a Cantonese-speaking lawyer, which is completely different. That's not right at all. It took place in a Spanish city, small village in Spain. The Spanish-speaking judge found it difficult to communicate. It's completely different. We lost some meaning. And it screwed up there's supposed to be 2 lawyers and 1 translator. It looks like it thought it now it's interpreting, it's now saying that there are multiple interpreters and only 1 lawyer. So it's just really, it lost a lot of information. A lot of things got jumbled up. So in terms of information retention, ChatGPT is pretty good at doing a string of translations, and I think that my theory for that is that it is going back and comparing to the previous translations and translating in that way, or everything gets translated to English and then translated to the next language instead of going language to language directly, or it's just a really good translator and it's able to preserve meaning somehow in a way that Google Translate is not able to. In terms of quality of the translation, hello, my name is Robot, and I like to eat ice cream on the weekends. How about translate to French?
Bonjour, je m'appelle Robot et j'aime manger des glaces le week-end.
Exactly this went de la crème glace, and this went glass. So honestly, I think ChatGPT is more accurate, but Google Translate seems to be a little more colloquial. See, like a little more. You'd probably just say glass. So that's cool. Okay. All right. So let's just translate